We have my amazing friend, Andrea. She's in the house. Welcome to How Did You Find Out podcast. I reached out to Andrea because I feel like she is an amazing human being and she's so gifted. And I feel like she knows I always cry. I feel like we connected relatively really fast. I know.
Tell me why I was driving here and I was teary-eyed.
Yeah. So it's, like I feel like we didn't know each other that long, and we just like instantly connected. Have always felt very comfortable around her, and we met in our crazy industry.
Yeah, and it was in a professional setting, but I immediately just felt like such a personal connection with you, and it was always like I felt like it was so natural to call you amiga, like friend.
Yes.
And I love that, and I think it's awesome. Thank you so much for having me, for
Yeah,
thinking of me.
of
I love the
course.
name of your podcast.
I know so much can come out,
and that's awesome. And I thank you for thinking of me, and I love that we get to go from, we were in this crazy industry, professional setting, but I think it speaks to our connection and our friendship that we get to also do this and dive into.
Yeah, and I feel every time we see each other, like it's like we're like
we pick up where
we
left
literally
off.
pick up where we left off. No time has passed. So I'm very blessed to know about you, but let's talk a little bit more about you, like for our listeners, like who's Andrea?
All right, well, thank you again.
Yes.
And gosh, where do I start? I was born and raised in Tijuana, and that's just something that I always like to bring out because it's such a big part of me. This border. I was raised, in a border town, and I've been living in San Diego now for like more than half my life. So this is home.
Yeah.
On my day job now, so I'm no longer in the real estate space, which is where we met.
Yeah.
But I am working with a nonprofit. It's called the Chicano Federation.
I love it.
And I'm a marketer by day, so I get to support their marketings and communications.
And you're so in your space when it comes to that. I will tell you. Yes.
I loved real estate. It was so fun and busy, and there's so much going on, and I learned a ton.
Much, yeah.
But I think, the world is just constantly shifting, and being in a nonprofit space and working with community has actually always been really a big part of who I am and what I've done even prior to being in real estate. So I just felt it was time to go back to, I feel like, my roots and working more with community, especially with so much going on right now in the world.
Right.
And so marketer by day.
Yes.
And then currently I also have a very passion projects, personal business that is more in the spiritual business or spiritual wellness space.
Yeah.
And so I am, amongst many things, a psychic, a medium, and a energy worker.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really woo-woo and out there. And we can get into it as we go along. But one thing I just want to preface with that, and as we dive into that later on, is I always pride myself in having a very grounded approach to spirituality and to the work that I do, and both for myself and anybody that I get to work with in that space. I like to emphasize and aim to, like, anything that we can gain from connecting with energy and spirit, how can we bring that into our lived experience?
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit about who I am and what I do now.
And one thing that I've admired about you is your strength. And given that I didn't know your full story, I did know that your father had passed, and seeing your connection that you had with him on an online space, tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, oh my gosh, diving right in.
Yeah,
and I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. It's my dad. It's interesting. Like, growing up, we weren't always so close, but as we got older and life kind of hit us in a way, my family, we unfortunately experienced a lot of hardship.
Yeah.
My dad and my mom, my immediate family had a lot of challenges, and so as I was growing up and coming into my own and feeling like a full-grown adult in the world, my dad and I really became a team in taking care of our immediate family and taking care of each other. And so he really became my best friend in the later part of my life. And we would say that to each other, like, yeah, like, you're my best friend. And,
oh my gosh.
And so his passing, it was unexpected. And I have to acknowledge that, especially when it comes to the work that I do now in the spiritual space. And his passing was a big catalyst to me actually jumping into this space. And so I feel really blessed because, yes, we had this deep connection when he was here embodied, as he in my life, but the timing of his passing, I was already starting to really dive into this work of mediumship and psychism, and so I almost feel like I never fully lost him. It's not to say that it hasn't been really challenging to navigate the grief in the mourning, and it's not that I don't feel his absence. I absolutely do, and my family does, and grief can be so complex, but I also feel really, really lucky and fortunate that I feel still a really strong connection to him and his support. Every day, really. There's not a day that goes by that he's not present in my life. And so
that's how it came about. And so would you say that that's how you found out about this amazing gift that you have?
It was a part of it. It was a big catalyst, but it actually, this stuff for me kicked off a little before that. And actually it's sort of, here, I can kind of break it down this way. I think a lot of the times when we think about mediums or psychics or anybody that does this kind of work, we might think that they sort of are born this way and they are walking around seeing like dead people left and right, and that's not always the case, right? Different life experiences can trigger it, such as the loss of a loved one, or giving birth can also trigger like spiritual awakenings. For me, as I reflect on my own journey now, it was around 2013. I had fostered like my own yoga practice back then, or I was just doing a lot of asanas like on my own, and without really knowing what those movements do to you and your body. But I found myself having these moments of like finishing a practice and diving into meditation on my own, and then just suddenly realizing like, oh shoot, like I am a part of everything and nothing at the same time, like just having these little mini awakenings. And I think that sort of set me off on this also path of self-healing. And I know that may not sound directly connected to this work that I do now and psychism and mediumship and spirituality, but I think it was very much tied to me being able to do this now. I had to go through this like decade of shedding and unlearning so much hurt and programming and self-limiting beliefs. And in order for me to really have these innate abilities that we all actually have, to really let them come forward, and for me to really step into my own certainty about who I am and my own power. And so that kind of kicked off. I went through this decade of self-healing, and also again navigating a lot of the challenges that were going on with my family. And then I reached this point around 2020, and we were kind of in the pandemic. And I want to voice that too, because I feel like a lot of people during the pandemic also woke up and started having a lot of spiritual awakenings. But it was around 2020 when suddenly like I felt okay, like I was like, I got nothing else to work on self-healing wise. I am stable, got my own place, my family is stable, like everything is fine, right? But I suddenly was like, I felt so empty. And I was like, nothing is actually okay. Like there has to be more to life than just having a good job, having a stable home, and like being taken care of. I didn't feel okay. And this is what a lot of folks may know as like a dark night of the soul. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. You're nutty. So I was having this big dark night of the soul, which if you don't know what that means is like you start to question everything, your identity, you start to question life and the meaning of life. And it can feel really dark.
Like, what is it all for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I really thought, and I said to something, I was like, there has to be more to life. And if there is more to life, if there's something bigger than me out there, like, now's the freaking time for you to show up. Because otherwise, like, I don't know, I was in such a place where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was right before my dad's passing. But it was from that moment that I said that and vocalized that and really called for something to teach me, like, if there's something more, come forward now. Like, that's when our mutual friend, for example, Teresa,
yeah,
she called me up within a week, and she was one of the only people whom I had a conversation with, like a spiritual conversation with, because she has a strong faith and she works within a more religious, like, framework. But either way, she was one of the few people that I could talk to about God and, like, just spirituality.
Yes.
Calls me up within a week, and when we meet, someone else was supposed to join us, and she ended up canceling last minute. And she's like, yeah, they were supposed to cancel because, like, God told me to reach out to you.
Come talk to you. Oh my gosh.
And so her and I weren't really close, back then, but it was one of those moments for me that really lit a light bulb, where I was like, this feels like a direct response to
what you asked
what I asked for.
Yeah.
And so things started to snowball from there.
Yeah.
And I, at that time, as I was kind of trying to dig myself out of this hole and started to read books about spirituality, I started to really dive into a meditation practice. I started to have more experiences that we would consider, like, mystical experiences, like unexplainable phenomena that I think I just needed to get to a place where I was really ready to open up to it.
Right.
And when I was wholeheartedly open-minded about it and open-hearted about it, like, it all just began to flow. People started coming into my life, not just her, that really were initiating me into the path.
Yeah.
And teachers came onto my life. And I also felt, I know I'm talking a lot, but I also felt like something big was going to happen that was going to shift my entire life. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was not going to be good.
Oh.
And I couldn't shake it. And then my dad passes away unexpectedly. But by that point in time, I had just enough exposure to the world of energy, the world of spirit, and I had built this support system around me by then, that in his passing, it was such a weird experience where I was simultaneously crushed at the understanding that he was no longer here.
Right.
But I also felt so supported and then, like, had this really innate peace.
Right.
And then I started receiving visitations from him.
Wow.
In my dreams, and all of these things started happening that really, like, catapulted me into developing these skills. So it's a long-winded answer, but it's just like there's so much.
You were being prepared for that big transition part in your life, which is such a crucial point. Is like community, right? Is having that support, and grief is just, it's just wild. It's so different for everybody, and. I'm fortunate where I still have my parents. The relationship might not be great, but they're still breathing. I can call them, and that's one of the things that, like, my boyfriend lost his mom a couple of years ago, and he's like, even though your mom's challenging, just call her, because there's going to be one day you can't, and I don't take that lightly, because just life is too short, and then I met you after your dad's passing, is kind of around the time frame that we met. So I had, not in a creepy way, but like looked at your social media and had seen that and all of that, and I can't even imagine how that feels for you. And so many people, I think, have lost a parent, and it's so hard.
Yeah, and it's this weird process of, so much of what we see out there around, like, how to deal with grief, like, we think that there are these steps and it's not to say that information out there, like the steps of or stages of grief, aren't valid, you know, like anger or bargaining, and that is very real. But a lot of the discourse around grief is like, oh, well, you just have to let go of them in order to, you have to move forward with your life, and time will heal all, and all of those things are really well-meaning, and they're not necessarily wrong, you know. But I think that one of the biggest challenges for me and for my loved ones is like, I don't want to let go of them, you know, and you're so in it that it's like you can't even fathom or see a time when it's not going to be painful, you know, and it's like, oh, you just have to have acceptance that they're gone, and it's like why? Like, trust me, like I'm reminded every day, because I know I feel their absence, like I know that they're not here, and so it was this like process of sometimes not really even knowing like what I needed to hear, and nothing out there said anything that actually made me feel better. And so it just, I think the biggest thing that really supported me and the understanding that I really came to is like, it's coming into an acceptance that it's always going to be a part of me. Grief is always going to be there. It's an acceptance that like even accepting that it's always going to be painful to a degree. And I think sometimes people are afraid to say that because they feel like it's counterproductive. Like, how will that sucks, like to say something is always going to hurt, but it actually has the opposite effect. It's like
it eases the anxiety, I would imagine,
because you're not holding on. Woo, hello, B. No. It actually has the opposite effect, because otherwise you're it's okay, I don't mind her. Okay, she can munch on my tea.
This is like the coffee. Raw footage here.
This is out in the wild.
We're
out here.
In the wild. We out here.
Okay, so it just like otherwise, like if we don't, at least the reason or how I really process this is like, we're constantly being told that we kind of have to run away from that. From that pain, right? Or that it's wrong almost, that like eventually we want to strive to be in a place where it's not going to be there, and so we're constantly wondering, when am I going to feel okay, when am I going to feel okay? And so when we're able to have this like acceptance or release the resistance around when it actually has the opposite effect, where we can kind of give ourselves permission to just feel.
It just takes off that stress. Like every day you're waking up like, today's going to be the day, and it's like, why put that pressure? Accept it for what it is, double down on it, and learn how to like navigate through life with it at your own pace, and however that looks like.
And I think that really is the invitation. It's like you get to suddenly shift your perspective to like, how can I hold myself today? And it's like, again, a lot of the times it can feel like I wouldn't even know what I needed. And I not that I'm going to speak for my mom, but you know, her and I are really close too, and it's like sometimes she you know, if I was going through it, my mom and my dad, they were like attached at the hip. It's like she doesn't even know what she needs, and it led her to, because she couldn't find answers outside of her, anything that would give her solace, she ended up like going back to school and learning about grief, like literally in a program that it trains people on how to deal with grief and how to be, you know, accompany others in their grief, and she learned about all of these different religions and how they, you know, process it. And so she was just, it was this like, my dad's passing, as hard as it is, it's an initiation into us kind of coming back to ourselves and connecting to something greater too. And that's such a gift. But it's like, how can I hold myself and become more in tune with what I need today versus trying to push what
away
my
from
body's
it.
telling me.
And then I want to bring up your pup.
Oh, I had a double whammy. And so my dad passes away, right? And I am managing. Because I have to stay strong for my mother, you know, and of course I didn't have to, you know, it was like my own daughter programming. It's like, I'm a caregiver and I'm going to be there for her, and if she's my family, and that's just part of my values, right? But then I adopted my pup, and he was like legit my soul dog.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I saw him on a Facebook group, and
You're
he
like,
was
"That's him." Swipe right on the dog.
The dog was so ugly. He was cute. Like he was like
It's adorable.
a little rat with an oversized head and like crooked legs, like from a hoarding situation. But I saw him and I was like, that is my baby. And yeah, and then we, I met him and it was like an instant connection. And so my dog, he was a huge emotional support for me, and just really dug me out of my grief. And within months of having him, he also passed unexpectedly. And I mean, honestly, what happened is like for 3 days, I was like completely shut down.
Yeah.
It just like anything that I could not actually process about my dad's passing, because I had to be the strong one. I had to figure out life, and like just there's so much that happens when somebody passes that I have my sister who's been a huge support for my mom and myself, but having to organize life after losing somebody so close to you and take care of others, like there was a lot. I had to like schedule times for me to cry, and a lot of times I suppressed my own emotions and having to sit with my own feelings. And so my dog's passing really pushed me to like, no, you have to
release.
You need to just feel it all.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for my mom, because then it was like our roles reversed. I took a few days off. She laid me down on the couch. She put a blanket over me, and she's like, "You stay here and you don't move." Like literally, and that's exactly what I needed. And she was like feeding me. I would just get up to go to the bathroom and come back, and it's just, again, it's not like I still think of him all the time. And for some people it might sound silly, like it's just your dog, but no.
And dog owners here.
Yeah.
Like dog lovers.
No, I can't imagine losing a child at all. It just I still, it's still painful to think about, but then the lesson was like allowing myself to process, allowing my body to process the emotions, because as much as I had this understanding of spirit and knowing that their essence is never truly gone,
right,
and that it's accessible to me, to all of us, that we can continue to foster a connection with them even after they passed on. It's like, I can understand that, but that doesn't mean my body doesn't have to still process the emotions. I'm still human. We're all still human, and I think so many of us often just like get so good at suppressing.
Oh yeah,
but it always catches up with us
one way or another, and
life will push it back
you
on
for
us.
it totally. And I remember you being at the vet when you're like, like at the time sharing that you were trying to figure out what was going on with him, and then after his passing, I'm like, oh my gosh, like her dad, like her dog, like literally life taking jabs at her. And the thing about him, it's like, it was just so beautiful to watch you like smile and like be around him and care for him, like something that brings you joy. Because I think about my dogs. I've had 2 dogs, one my ex kept, but my current dog, and I feel like now you have another dog.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's such a gentleman with you, outside looking in. Like, he is so awesome, and I can relate to that 100%, dealing with my trauma, moving back. I brought my dog back, and there's something so nurturing about, again, people are like, they're just dogs, but having like a male dog that's like so gentle and so tender is like healing. It's crazy.
It's wild, and it's exactly the type of love and support that I need at the time. Just how my other dog Dobie, like that's what he was for me. He was an absolute love bombing, soothing, like the way that he would lay on my chest, it was like having a weighted blanket. Like it was medicine for me at the time. And I remember, and I'll talk about Grace and my baby now, but I looked at Dobie, for example, and he came from a hoarding situation. Like his little bones were all crooked. Like
poor guy.
Like, he had and he was in and out of the hospital, like the vet, all the time. But he was so resilient. He was so full of joy and love, and he was so confident. And it was all of the things that I didn't feel at the time. you know, because he had overcome all of this hardship in his little short life. And so he was a mirror of like all the things that I could be myself. And he would take me out of the house, right? And remind me of all the love and joy. And so when he passed, I kind of made a vow to myself to never let that go. Like that was a big lesson that he brought into my life. Like, how can I do the most, you know, and continue to foster that joy and love and strength within myself and resilience. And then he passed, I'm crushed, right? And I'm navigating, and I'm still in parallel to all of this pain. I'm also knee deep into developing these skills for the work that I do now and my own spiritual practice. So it helped me, that work also helped me kind of bring myself, you know, back out of that hole in a way.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know if I was going to be ready to have another dog. But just, it all kind of happened. Like the stars aligned. I go to a shelter because I had seen a different dog, completely different dog. And I get there, that dog's on hold. I meet other dogs, and none of them are just connecting.
Yeah.
You know, you just feel it.
Yeah.
And the shelter's about to close, and I wasn't supposed to meet with another dog because they have a limit of three meetings.
Right.
And the girl's like, she's like, you're the last one here. Just go around and check it out. And because the whole shelter had quieted down enough, I go by Grayson's stall, and he's coming out from underneath the bed. So the entire time he had been hiding. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, who is? I had not seen him. I'd done like 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah.
And it was instant. Like when we had our little meet and greet, he just was like sitting right at my feet, looking me straight in the eye. He was like 11 weeks playing fetch with me. And he's so gentle, and he's so independent and self-sufficient, but also like has such good boundaries. Like he's such a little wise dog, and he's a medicine dog in his own way. But he is such a gentleman, and so gentle that he teaches me how to be really present. Like I can't even describe him. Like he's an angel. And he's exactly what I need at this point in my life. He's in many ways he's very different from Dobie.
Totally. Yeah, they're all different.
But he's just what I need now.
Yes.
And yeah, he's awesome.
He's your guy.
He's my guy.
Yeah.
And so I really feel taken care of by the universe in that way, that it just whether it's people, whether it's pets, or, you know, or even jobs, even like experiences, I feel so blessed to always receive and have the love and support that I need, and that's never lost on me, and I never take it for granted. But
but the part of being able to receive is like, that's the challenging part, right? Because we go back to that limited belief, which we see a lot in people. Even I feel like even in our industry, like I speak to, you know, a Hispanic family, and they're like, no, pues, you know, like getting, I'd love to buy a house, but God only knows, you know. But it's like really being able to be open to receiving the things. That's like huge.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not like I have everything figured out.
None of us do.
I don't know. We don't. But I will say, like, again, I was simultaneously going through my development process.
Yeah.
And so really what that looked like for me, I've been under mentorship. I've had different teachers throughout my, the years, but there was one specific program, like this long-term program that I entered into. It's a psychic development program.
Wow.
And so we met every week for 18, I actually ended it a little bit sooner than 18 months, but it was definitely over a year of meeting every single week with my mentors and within a group of other, I had a small cohort where we were diving in and going into meditative state and looking at energy. Wow. And that's what we really trained. And so the whole program was to not only help us develop the skill of psychism and in many ways mediumship and doing energy work, but it's like helping us become, what does it mean to be a practitioner and helping others, right, in an ethical way and work with integrity and whatnot. But for every single week, we were diving in and looking at our own energy first, because we have to become self-aware and how do we get neutral to our own triggers, our own limiting self-beliefs, our own pain.
Yeah.
You know, in order, especially if we're going to be helping other folks,
right.
You know, or holding space for other people.
Right.
So that was such a gift too. I had to really look at myself in different ways, and then, you know, I wouldn't just do that for myself. Within my peers and I, we would end up doing readings for each other.
That's awesome.
And so I'm also hearing the same things that I was seeing within myself, seeing them from the lens of somebody else, but it was always so on point.
Oh my gosh.
And so just to give you like a little example, I know, you know, I took this solo trip for a month and a half in Southeast Asia, which I feel really blessed to have been able to do. But prior to this year of me diving into this work, I never thought I could be that girl or that person that had the privilege to just take off and leave for a year, for let alone 3 weeks, you know, like on a trip like this or solo. Like it just was not in the cards for me because of my upbringing. I'm like, how am I going to afford that? Like I have a job, I have responsibilities. And also it's just like, I see the girls on Instagram that do that. And I'm like, that's never going to be me.
Do you know what's so funny about that? Like looking back and now you bringing that up about that trip, I can totally, like before you even took this trip, envision you doing something like that.
Well, I never saw that for myself, like at all. It just was not, again, like dead serious. It was never in the cards for me. But as I was doing that work, it was like, oh, why not? No, why not? You know, and more even further than that, it was like suddenly my best friend says she's getting married in Bali. Actually, we knew that, but I was like, well, that's the perfect opportunity. I'm already going to be across the world, right? So that was a big help in me taking that step. But then I was like trying to figure out, how am I going to take time off? How am I going to afford it? And I think I had done enough work to realize this is something I can do, that it's not like I don't deserve, you know, like, or that like those limiting self-beliefs, I had shed so much of that I didn't really realize that I was so open to receiving, but I genuinely saw the world shift around me, where the money that I needed for that trip came in from outside sources that I was completely not expecting at all.
Oh my gosh.
Like, at all. I didn't even need to do anything extra for that money to come into my life. Yeah. And I was like, this is what manifesting is all about. Like, you know? And then not that it's always that easy, but like my role with work shifted, the support came in for me to be able to take that time off. You know, like just life really molded itself around me for me to be able to take that trip. Right. And yes, I had to still take steps myself and prepare, and of course, not to say like it's all just magic, it just happened. No, you know. But I really do see how becoming so aware of those self-limiting beliefs and really working on that and getting really honest with myself and pouring back into myself in that way helped really shift my reality, the way I saw it and the way it behaved around me. And that trip was such another initiation for me to step further into this work. It really opened my mind and my heart in ways I was not expecting. Like it wasn't just the trip just for the sake of taking a vacation. No, it seemed like a beautiful, very healing, very just about you type of trip. Yeah, I mean, it even I feel in many ways it cracked me open because I also became really aware of a lot of pain that exists beyond, I kind of have lived in a bubble here. Yes. We have it really good here. We have it really good. And so I think that's what travel is supposed to do. 100%. Either way, there's vacation and then But yeah, it was really helpful in just me growing as a human being. Yeah, I can totally relate to that because when I went to Fiji with my sister, my brother-in-law couldn't make it, and I went, and I knew I was on the verge of divorce. There was already a lot of things happening, but that moment when I was in Fiji for 10 days, first and foremost, I didn't even realize I'm like, oh shit, I should check in with somebody. I have somebody at home. Didn't even faze me. But two, it was very soothing and very acceptance. And I was like, okay, I'm going back home and I'm gonna get divorced. I was like,
what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, like when you're pulled away from your day to day and the traffic and the hustle and bustle, all the things, all the chaos, and you just sit in quietness and in your thoughts, and you're like stress free, like everything just comes full circle to you.
Yeah. No, and I remember even after coming back, I was still like, it took me a while for me to really like integrate everything that I had learned. And like, I didn't see going to the park, like I found myself spending a lot of time at the park with my dog, just trying to get back into, I'm here, I'm back, I'm home. And I just even looking at, wow, like I have this park that is just beautiful, and all these amenities and stuff that I was taking for granted, and like it just completely shifted my sense of self and the role that I play in the world.
And thinking back at little Dre, growing up in Tijuana, going through everything you've gone through life, being an adolescent, adult, crazy real estate space and all that, and now to where you're at, what would you tell the younger self of, like, what would you tell that little girl?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Yeah. Let me think for a moment. Gosh, there's so much. If I could talk to her right now, I would encourage her. I feel like this is somebody I would say to anybody with like what I know now. It's just, oh my gosh, okay, this is gonna sound so cliche, but it's like, you are so much more powerful than you realize, and that's not coming from a place of like grandiose, like you know, it's just encouraging her to not be afraid to dive into herself and getting to know herself more, you know. And I say this because I think we're kind of programmed to outsource our sense of self sometimes, and look for our answers outside of ourselves, and we look at other people and there's comparison, and like, I should be that way, or I should be this way, or I should be doing more of this or more of that, and that really distances us from what we need, what we feel, and it can be really disorienting because we don't know what we're feeling and what we need, because we're just not present with ourselves. And so I think that it took me enough time to get to a place where I really understood I needed to prioritize that. And the moment that I got really present with myself and in tune, and build this practice of being in tune with what I need, everything shifted. It just, I moved through the world with just, I feel myself planted here, and I can make decisions from a place where I know what's best for me, and I can take decisions with integrity, you know, and without having to sacrifice my sense of self, my peace. And I think little Dre did that for a long time. And because we don't know better, because we're trying to protect ourselves, because nobody teaches us. So I think that little Dre always had that feeling in her of like, I know this doesn't feel right for me, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know the alternative. I don't know that I can do differently. And I would just remind her, no, like, stay curious about what that feeling is, and follow it, and honor it, and get curious about it. I think curiosity, especially around, I've always been fascinated about human behavior and why we do the things we do. And I would do that with other people, but not with myself. So I would say follow that curiosity and put that to practice with yourself.
And how can people find you, and just like a little glimpse of like your services?
So you can find me on Instagram, which is saralma.energy. My website is saralma.life, and Saralma or Seralma. So that's my spiritual practice and business, my little space or corner in the spiritual space. And it's a combination of two words, ser and alma, which is like to be. It's in Spanish, and alma is soul. So really my goal, my mission, I feel a big part of my work is to help people remember their soul essence, right? And their connectedness to all that is, and remembering their power and embodying that again through their lived experience. So
perfect.
Instagram, my website.
And then for your nonprofit, Do they have an Instagram
yes.
as well?
Yes. So on Instagram, you can also find us, or Facebook, Chicano Federation. And a big shout out to the leadership at Chicano Federation and my team, because we're out here trying to do support our communities, especially during these times, and always really. So there are services for anybody here in San Diego County. From housing to workforce development to all the things, anything you need.
All the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
Chicano Federation. Thank you for helping me do a little plug.
Yeah. No, of course. Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you.
it.